All right, so we're diving back into Lauren Cunningham's story. Last time we kind of left him at a crossroads, like comfy life with his aunt or this huge vision. He's got these young people changing the world.
Right.
Tough choice.
Yeah, no kidding.
But here's the thing. Even after he chooses, the path less traveled by,
Hmm.
no silk sheets for this guy. He's still restless.
Oh,
It's like that vision lit this fire, and now it's like, how do you even begin to like channel that energy?
it's kind of like that saying, vision without action is just a daydream. He's got the vision, he's got the passion, but putting it into practice right, that's the work.
That's the real work, right?
Yeah.
And those early attempts, let's just say more learn as you go than perfectly orchestrated movement. And this trip to Hawaii with like a group of teenagers, 106 to be exact,
Wow.
sounds like a recipe for disaster.
It really speaks to the importance of those early experiences, even when they seem small compared to the big picture, right? It's where you test your assumptions, you kind of learn from the mistakes and figure out how you're going to approach things.
Totally. And Lauren learned pretty fast that mixing evangelism and teenagers on a beach,
Right.
it's a recipe for distraction. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
Not exactly building houses for the poor, are they?
No, not quite. And that's a good lesson no matter what you're doing right.
Oh, yeah.
Can't be everything to everyone. Focus is key.
And so true. So true. And this is where it gets really interesting. He goes on this world tour, right? And it's all about these new cultures, seeing the needs firsthand. But the really cool stuff is what's happening on the inside.
Yeah, it's like the world, this huge world with all these needs, just magnifies what's going on inside him. He's not just seeing poverty or spiritual hunger. He's feeling it, right?
Oh, yeah.
The weight of it and realizing he can't do it alone.
It's like when you see something amazing, right? Like imagine the Taj Mahal. You wouldn't just stand there. You'd want someone there with you to share it with. And for Loren, it wasn't just like a pretty view. It was this whole calling this weight of the world.
And that's huge, right? Wanting to share that's a turning point for him. What leads to all those relationships that make YWAM what it is.
And speaking of relationships that shaped YWAM, enter Dallas and Larry. Now you're thinking global movement of young people, right? You're thinking students, missionaries,
Right.
bulldozer operators. Not so much.
Not the first thing that comes to mind.
But that's what makes it so interesting, right? The call to do something. It comes in all shapes and sizes.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes the most ordinary people become extraordinary because they share a vision.
That's so true.
For real. I mean, bulldozers and Bibles. Not two things you see every day. So how do these worlds collide? Okay, so picture this classic American diner, Stan's restaurant, red vinyl booths, coffee french fries.
Okay.
About as far from a mission field as you can get.
Should see that again.
Total opposite, right? And that's what he's trying to get across to Dallas and Larry. They're finishing up their burgers, probably talking about engines or whatever bulldozer guys talk about, right? And Loren launches into this description about all the poverty he's seen, these funeral pyres, the desperation.
It's all about storytelling, isn't it? He's not preaching at them. He's sharing something real, painting this picture, and people connect with that.
And boy, did they connect, because right there in that diner, a seed is planted. Dallas and Larry are bulldozer heroes. They're ready to trade those engines for evangelism, be a part of something huge.
Talk about infectious enthusiasm, right? It can bridge any gap.
Absolutely. But inspiration is one thing. Turning that into a real movement, that's something else.
Oh, yeah, that's a whole other story.
It takes resources, structure, a plan.
And sometimes you got to shake things up a bit, right? Challenge how things are normally done.
For sure. And that's what happens when Loren starts to really build YWAM. Don't forget, it's the early 60s, okay?
Right.
Missions back then, that was like career missionaries with denominations.
Yeah, it was a whole different world, right?
Totally. And Loren comes in with this crazy idea, like, what if young people, even teenagers, could be missionaries?
Talk of a different perspective.
Wild, right? Instead of these seasoned veterans, you've got teenagers gung-ho ready to jump in head first.
Talk about shaking things up.
Yeah.
And not everyone was thrilled about it, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Especially not the bigwigs in the church.
Oh, no, they were not on board. Kids are writing letters, signing up Pumped to Serve, and the church leaders. Let's just say they weren't rolling out the red carpet. They were worried too young, too green, too risky.
And you can't blame them entirely, right? Sending young people to another country, barely speaking the language, full of big ideas. It's a recipe for some interesting situations.
Totally. I can picture those church leaders just shaking their heads like, what is Loren thinking? They even suggested he stick to sending like vocational volunteers, to establish missions, keep things nice and controlled.
Classic, right?
Well,
Wanting to help, but wanting to keep things predictable.
Exactly. But Loren, he's got this unshakable belief in young people, this idea that God can use anyone, no matter what age or experience. And besides, he keeps meeting guys like Dallas and Larry who are ready to drop everything and serve.
And that's the visionary in him, right?
Ugh.
He sees beyond the present. He trusts in something bigger even when others don't.
Totally. And that trust leads to this huge moment. He hears about this project in Liberia building a road to a leper colony. Talk about a challenge. And guess who he thinks of?
I'm going to go out on a limb and say our bulldozer buddies might be just the ticket.
Ding, ding, ding. Dallas and Larry ready to trade in those diners for dirt roads, French fries for, well, probably not much in the way of fine dining, let's be honest. But get this, to fund this first YWAM mission, Dallas sells something he loves. And I'm not talking about a record collection. This man sells his baby.
Okay, now you've got me curious. What could it be that shows how committed he is?
His car. And not just any car. A 1956 Chevy Bel Air. Picture this turquoise and white gleaming chrome, those tail fins.
Yeah.
This wasn't a car. It was freedom. It was dreams. It was America.
Now that is dedication. To give up something that meant so much, wow, it really hits home how powerful this calling was.
Right. This wasn't just a decision. It was putting his money where his mouth was, literally. And it wasn't just him. Those early Weimers, they were signing up for no-pay short trips, all about evangelism.
Totally different from how we think about work and service these days. Right? Giving up a steady paycheck, being uncomfortable and uncertain, it goes against everything we're told.
For real, but there's something beautiful in that, don't you think? Saying yes to something bigger than yourself, even if it means giving up your own comfort.
Totally. It shows how strong purpose can be. It makes you act in a way that goes beyond just wanting a reward.
Absolutely. So off go Dallas and Larry to Liberia, 6 volunteers strong. They might not be the waves of Loren's vision just yet, but hey, at least those ripples are starting.
And as those ripples spread, as Loren's building this movement, there's something else pulling at him. Family and a different kind of future.
Ah, yes, Aunt Sandra. The good life security. A life without the headaches of this little organization he's trying to get off the ground.
It's tempting, right?
You bet. It's natural to want to make your family happy, to live up to their hopes, and when those hopes clash with your own dreams, well, it's tough. And for Loren, it plays out in a way that we can all understand. Remember that mansion, the Cadillac, silk sheets.
Well, Loren goes to visit Aunt Sandra knowing he's about to make a choice she might not like. And she's like, Loren, honey, here's the family business. You could really make a difference with all this, comfortable life, the whole 9 yards.
And who can blame her? She just wants him to be safe to do good without the struggle. It's tempting, especially when you've seen what poverty is really like.
Oh, totally. And remember, Loren's not some robot. He's human, right? He knows what it's like to work hard, to enjoy the good life.
It just shows you, even people who do incredible things, they still have those basic needs, right? Security, connection, belonging. For sure. Okay, so picture this. Loren and his aunt, they're walking by her lake. One of those perfect scenes, birds singing, sun on the water. And he knows he's about to drop a bomb. He's got to tell her he's choosing a different path, one that she probably doesn't get.
Ooh, that's heavy, right? Family expectations. Choices that echo through generations. It's a lot.
And you know what? Aunt Sandra, she tries. She even says, Loren, we could do so much good together with what we have. She really wanted to make a difference.
Shows her character, right?
Oh, yeah.
But also shows you how people think about charity sometimes. Like it's got to be through these big institutions with rules and all that. Doesn't always leave room for someone like Loren doing things differently.
Exactly. And that's what's tearing him apart. Can he follow his calling, A&D, make his family happy? And right there by that lake, he realizes he can't.
It's like he finally sees himself clearly. Sometimes to be true to yourself, you got to disappoint the people you care about.
And that's what he does. He tells her, I can't, Aunt Sandra. It's the whole world. God's calling me to you. I got to answer that.
Wow, powerful. Putting something bigger than himself first, even if it costs him.
And get this. Even then, even when it could all fall apart, he makes a promise to stay connected, to bridge the gap between them.
That's real love, man. Knowing that family's precious even when you disagree.
So there you have it. From restless beginnings to a diner booth to a bulldozer sold and a promise by the lake, YWAM's early days, messy, inspiring, kind of strange, reminds you that sometimes the most amazing journeys start with a simple yes, a willingness to dive into the unknown, even if it means shaking things up, ruffling some feathers.
Makes you think, doesn't it? What about us? What small step can we take today towards something bigger than ourselves? What's that fire inside us just waiting to be lit? What dreams have we let go of because we're afraid or because someone told us to?
Man, I love it. And speaking of dreams and the unknown, next time things get really interesting, remember that whole partner thing? That needing to share this huge vision while Lauren's about to meet someone named Darlene and their love story. Oh, you do not want to miss this. So until then, happy diving, everybody.